Well, it was interesting because I was doing a doctoral dissertation on organ music, and I knew that Fanny had written one organ prelude in F major, and I figured there had to be more. So I sort of stumbled on her music when I went to Barbara Owen, and she suggested all these women composers of organ music who might be worth pursuing. Fanny's music was the best of the lot, and it was really excellent in a way that was very surprising to me. And the first songs of hers that I came across were Lieder she'd written in 1846 that were just so exquisitely beautiful. And I had to copy them out by hand from the library in Boston because they wouldn't let me Xerox them. But as I brought them home and played them, my husband and I just were both amazed at what a very important and beautiful compositional voice this was. Very original, not like Felix, and yet of that school. You hear the early 19th century, you hear Beethoven and Schumann and Liszt, but you also hear a woman, and a woman who is strong and has her own identity, beautifully portrayed. Okay.
Well, I met the music through Vicki. I think Vicki and I met, and she knew that I had done some work with women composers, and she said, "Have you ever looked at the piano music of Fanny Mendelssohn?" And so I started to look at it, and what I was so astounded by is how, first of all, pianistic it is. It lies well in the fingers. There's two kinds of music. One sounds harder than it is, and one is harder than it sounds. And her music is, although it's very challenging, it's very comfortable within the fingers. There's composers like even Brahms and Beethoven, where it doesn't feel well in the fingers. She lies beautifully in the fingers. So she must have been a pianist. Was she a pianist? She must have known what she was doing pianistically. But there's a range to her music. It's not derivative. You hear it and you think it sounds like somebody, but it doesn't. It sounds like Fanny. There's a range of strict tonality to a little bit of a toe into atonality. And every piece has its own personality. And there are maybe 100 pieces of solo piano music. And for me to be able to introduce music to the public that is not, has not been written yesterday, I mean, that I do dedicate a lot of my life to, but to be able to introduce music where people can walk out singing the tune is, I think, going to be exquisite, and to give pianists an alternative to the repertoire. But what an extraordinary personality she must have been to really try and supersede the obstacles of her day, because you know, it's difficult in any time that you live to listen to what society is telling you should and should not do, to think that you can do something different, and then to have whatever it takes, the strength or the determination to combat that, because that's a lot of energy. That's energy that people, it's sort of the difference when you're not fighting a racial problem. You know, we don't think about how that we take things for granted, and I think with men, in those days, they didn't think about it. They just went and they learned. But women had to think about, well, society doesn't want me to do this, my family doesn't want me to do it, I'm doing it anyway.
So she died in May of 1847.
And he died like November?
And he died after the summer.
Oh.
Yeah, so devastating.
But that's the kind of thing that happens with married couples who've been together for a long time.
That's correct, that's correct. And he did, in the few months that he had left, he did go through her music and pick out the best of it that had still not been published, and saw to it. See, and I think that's his penance.
I think so too.
Yeah, so that he saw to it that some of it was published that had not previously been published.
Would there be a piece of music in the two albums that we've just recorded that you two could sort of agree upon as being something that if someone had to hear one piece that would sum up what her strengths were?
Which one would you choose?
I would choose. This.
Oh.
This one that starts. When I played and you said, it's so sad.
It is. this.